What is up? For this video I wanted to show you the final product first. This is a torsion box outfeed / assembly table. While sharing this build on Instagram, it became very apparent that torsion boxes aren't widely known about. That's why I titled this video Super Flat Outfeed Table. A torsion box is a series of beams that form a grid sandwiched between two layers of plywood or other engineered sheet goods. When I set to designing this table, I knew I wanted it to be 5 foot by 5 foot. My previous outfeed table was 4 foot by 4 foot, and in my new shop I had more room to breathe, so it was time for an upgrade. I knew I could get 5 by 5 plywood from my hardwood dealer, so the top and the bottom pieces of the torsion box were easy. The only thing to design was the internal grid. Since I knew it was going to be 5 foot long, I took a sheet of 3/4 inch MDF and cut 3 feet off of it, leaving me with a 4 foot by 5 foot piece. I designed the grid portion of the torsion box to be 3 inches tall, and since it's absolutely important that everything be exactly the same height, I set the fence to 3 inches and did all the rips at once. Based on our math, we could get all the material we needed out of the 4 by 5 piece. And when I say we, I mean my friend Ty. He was nice enough to come help me on this build. You should go check out his channel. I'll link it below. The first 2 perimeter pieces were something of a proof of concept. Our plan was to lay down a ton of glue and use pocket hole screws to hold the pieces down while the glue dried. MDF has a tendency to absorb a lot of water. As a result, it's bad in wet environments. But another result is it just soaks up glue. We kept having to reapply, and the amount of glue we went through on this project was incredible. You can see that we're using pocket holes in conjunction with clamps here. Our thought was that the clamps would hold the piece at a perfect 90 and then we could set the screws in place and everything would be perfect. But we found out down the road that it didn't really matter. We could just hold the piece at a 90 and then set the pocket hole screws without the clamps and everything was just fine. With the 2 perimeter pieces in place, it was time to start attaching the perpendicular pieces. And since we cut everything 5 foot long, we have to cut the pieces down to fit between the 2 perimeter pieces. This measurement is 5 foot minus the thickness of 2 3/4 inch MDF pieces, or 1.5 inches. Here I'm cutting off that waste. Here I'm marking where the pocket holes are going to be drilled. It really isn't that important that these are in the same spot, but it scratches that symmetry itch that I get. Hey, you want to watch me drill out 56 pocket holes? Yeah, me either. What about me cutting 56 of these small pieces that make up the rest of the grid? No? No one? All right. Well, here they are all cut out. Here I'm marking up the layout for the inside and outside of the perpendicular pieces that will attach to these that make up the grid. And this is just a super sexy, run-of-the-mill ASMR gluing montage. Everything up to this point was basically set up. From here on out, it's just repetitious glue and screw and set everything in its place, clamp it in, and run with it. Both of us were on batching duty. Ty was batching out pocket holes, and I was batching attaching the pieces. None of it was hard, it was just really repetitive and kind of boring. Moving clamps around was the hardest part. I could have definitely used more clamps for this build, but what I have is what I have, so I had to attach and reattach and unattach clamps as I was going to make everything work out. And with that, the torsion box grid was assembled. I let the glue dry overnight, and what I'm doing here is cleaning up glue squeeze out, but I'm also flushing up the tops. There were some slight variances and I wanted it to be perfectly flat, which you can see I attained here. Next, we moved on to gluing the top piece of plywood to the torsion box grid. This used a ton of glue, but it worked out great, and we were able to clamp the whole perimeter down with F-clamps and bar clamps. And we clamped the middle down by using metal fence stakes and shims. After all that was dry, I popped all the clamps off, and I started to attach a second sheet of 5x5 plywood. My thought here was that as this top got beat up, I could flip it over, and once that other side got beat up, I could just trash it and get another sheet of plywood. I held this down with 9 screws and a 3x3 grid. And for some finishing touches, I added some heavy-duty leveling feet, and I also added some knockdown casters. This will allow me to move the outfeed table around in the future should the need arise. I am super happy with this project. It's the perfect outfeed height for my table saw, and it gives me a lot more space for assembling and finishing projects. And since it's dead flat, it gives me the opportunity to use the top as a slab flattening jig. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you think I deserved it, a thumbs up or hitting that subscribe button would be amazing. I have other build videos, and I plan to keep them coming. Thanks for stopping by.
What are you looking for tonight? Underneath these city lights.